Hi everyone, welcome to the third episode of Mo Data, Mo Problems. Is that what we call it?
Yeah, unfortunately. For this week.
Our big data series. Today, well, originally this was supposed to come out last Thursday, but we've had a spate of illnesses, so it's coming out this Thursday. We're talking about Amazon's new Dynamodb product. We're just going to kind of give you an overview of what it is and when you would use it versus HBase. So Nick's going to just give you a brief overview of the key features.
So what's interesting about Dynamodb, it was basically announced publicly this month. It's actually been around since 2007. Amazon needed something to keep track of their internal inventory, and they simply couldn't do it with existing database products. They just had too many items. So they started developing Dynamo. There's actually a pretty long post from the CTO at Amazon about...
Is that Vogel?
Yeah, Werner Vogel, about the history behind it. They're running into issues, and then once they actually deployed Dynamo in-house and started using it, they wanted their other engineers to use it, but they needed to also have a Dynamo installation, which is pretty difficult to set up, and Amazon already had some of the other managed services, so their own engineers, even though Dynamo is technically better, would go and use the other services. So finally they decided to make a managed version of it, where you don't need to set up any of the servers or any of the hierarchy or any of the networking. You can just deploy and write apps against it and call it a day, and Amazon takes care of it. They call it Dynamodb, and that's what they released. So you can go and get a Dynamodb instance and do any sort of big data stuff you want against it without having to manage it or control it or anything like that, or set up servers.
Yeah, they made it really simple for deployment. Like Nick was saying earlier, it's a few clicks of a few forms, and there you go. You're up and running. Ease of administration, has always been one of Amazon Web Services' core goals. Another great thing about it is the monitoring package. That's all there intact. It's easy to get key metrics about your performance, how your database is running, and the secure functionality is there, already built into it. Going back to the administration work, it's a lot harder to set up an HBase cluster out of the box if you're installing hardware and then installing HDFS and then installing HBase on top of that, and then figuring out the network topology and so forth. Whereas with this, with like I said before, any other Amazon service, it's pretty much click and go. Another cool thing is the interoperability with the other Amazon Web Services like S3 and SimpleDB. So you can run your analysis over all three. You can connect all three to shift data around. So.
And you run the analysis with Elastic MapReduce, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So other than being a lot easier to manage than setting up HBase and HDFS, and what other advantages or disadvantages, what are the main reasons you go for one versus the other?
Well, one versus the other, I should mention it's actually really easy to develop against Dynamodb, as far as I can tell. I haven't done any serious lifting against it. It supports all of the standard queries you'd expect at table and row level or data level. So you can do your puts, you can do your gets, scans, queries, updates. Tables, you can do list and describe to figure out what you're looking at and what's around. The whole thing is a JSON REST API that you can just make calls to and get calls back in an easy to use format.
Which is a lot easier than HBase out of the box.
It's a lot easier than Java calls sometimes. I didn't find them too bad, but they can be kind of weird. So with that, I found them to be about the same to develop against. The real thing you're getting with Dynamodb is you don't need to set up your cluster. You don't need to figure out Kerberos authentication if you're trying to hide your cluster from other parts of your network. You don't need to figure out the right amount of CPUs per hard disk, per network adapter, per switch, and all that. And if you ever look at the HBase and Hadoop mailing list, that's an open point of contention. It really depends on your application. and lots of performance testing. With Amazon, at least, you can just be like, yeah, you guys figure it out, and I'll pay you.
Wasn't there was also a size difference though between the sizes that HBase and Dynamo would accept?
Yeah, the actual database, they can do similar things. You could do the same set of things on them. HBase is better geared for one small set. I don't know a particular use case for it necessarily, but the Amazon item size is 64 kilobytes, so it's really, really good for lots of items with not a lot of data about each item, like an order inventory system or a user account system, which is what it was built for.
Yeah.
HBase allows for a larger item size. I don't quite remember what the size is, but if you wanted to store small files, let's say, small being like on the order of megabytes, you could get away with it. Amazon recommends doing the old pointing to an ID that's a URL into S3 somewhere, but there's a cost with going and retrieving something from S3, whereas HBase you can pull it down in byte format and transform it if you wanted to. That's really the biggest difference between the two. One of the things you do get with Dynamo is you can get a relatively guaranteed low latency. They claim it's in the single milliseconds. I haven't run tests against it. I'm going to assume that claim is somewhat true. I think I've seen 99 percentile was like 8 or 9 milliseconds.
What's that compared to?
For HBase, I think the shortest I've seen is, I don't know, like 20 milliseconds for like one query.
You're also saying we don't know exactly what's going on under the hood of Dynamodb, right?
Yeah, they've been pretty tight-lipped about how the whole thing is designed. HBase and Hadoop, which is what HBase sits on, are all open source, so anyone can go and look at the code. There's lots of people out there who are providing information about what kind of network setups you should do and how you should cluster everything and how many servers to put on a rack. With DynamoDB, you can only make guesses as to what they're doing under the hood. They don't publish it. It's theirs. All we know is it's scalable. I assume there's some sort of hot swappable technology that lets them pull boxes out.
Do you think at all that like it not having an open source version could hurt like at least community excitement or adoption?
I would say probably. I mean, this is more geared at businesses and developers probably looking for more commercial apps. I mean, that's my feeling at least. Usually the open source community generally only wants to tinker with open source projects.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get as many tinkerers. With that said, Amazon already has a pretty big community around them. There is also a free tier for this product. It's like 40 million requests per month, which comes to like 5 requests per second.
Yeah, we said I think it was 5 writes a second and 10 reads a second with a cap of 100 megabyte storage. There is no cap when you're actually paying. No hard cap on the amount of data you can store, but with the free version there is.
In that regard, the way their pricing model works is reads are cheaper than writes, and the data is just a flat rate depending on the amount of data. So it's definitely also geared from a price performance perspective for anything that's a lot of reads compared to writes, because your writes are more expensive.
Yeah.
So doing something like dumping large data sets into DynamoDB just to run MapReduce jobs on them and then delete all the data later is like not something you would use it for. Where dumping large files into Hadoop, like a more traditional application for physics crunching or something, makes a lot more sense there. It's definitely more geared towards any sort of key value store, like an order inventory system.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, I think that's it for today. But we will see you next week. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments in the video. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.